Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician, and I've got something interesting to show you and share with you and discuss with you. Um, Trip down memory lane earlier this morning. My nearly 3-year-old son had found a penny. He found a penny, and my daughter, who is almost 8, I've given a couple of coins, couple of spare Morgan stamps to her that she plays around with, and I do coin tricks, and I'll say, go get your coin and I'll do something with it. We do this every now and then. And he found this penny and he wanted me to do something with it. And I did not like the idea of a 2-year-old having a penny, because you never know what a 2-year-old's going to do with something, right? Stick it in his nose or his ears or whatever. And especially after seeing me do a trick where I vanish a coin and then pull it out of someone's ear, that's just asking for problems, right? You just wait to see what experimentation he's going to come up with his penny. So I thought, well, what can I do? I can't really take the penny away without creating a big problem. But I don't really want him to have it. So my mind jogged to an old effect that I got when I was a teenager at a brick and mortar magic shop. And I performed it. This is typical of magic that you buy, right? This is, you buy something, you see something, you buy it. This is most people. This is not everybody, but most people that don't necessarily discern, right, what they're getting into. You see something, you buy it, you play around with it. Maybe you show it to somebody in close proximity that you live with, or a friend or something, and then you put it away and you don't use it anymore, right? And there's just a lot of tricks like that. This was kind of one of them. I think I did this once in a show I did as a teenager. And of course, because of it's so small, it doesn't play very well for a show kind of environment. It's a close-up trick. But I saw this in the store. It was performed for me by the person behind the counter. I love the trick. I bought it right there, and I have it. So my mind went to this trick, and I knew that I would solve all of my problems with this trick, right? So this is Fourth Dimension Scent Climax by Barry Mitchell and Ross Steele. So this is the trick. And it's only going to be part of the trick, and I'll explain what happens next, and you can see how it got me out of trouble with my 2-year-old, right? So I took his penny, and I put it on the table, and then the trick has a mirror, a little circular mirror. And part of the pattern, from what I recalled, I didn't really review the document very much. I just kind of went off of my memory. You can talk about how you have kind of a fourth dimensional aspect to the mirror, the use of a mirror, right? And that's investigated a lot in like Alice Through the Looking Glass and whatnot. But if you look here, if I take the mirror and I set the mirror right behind the penny, it looks like there are now 2 pennies. There's 2 pennies in space instead of 1. When really there's only 1. You can see the reflection of it. You can do other things. You can actually make it look like the penny disappears, right, if you put it out in front of it. If you place the mirror on the penny, on the edge, and you pull it back like this, you can make it look like the penny is growing out of nothing, right, and turns into 2. But you can also go in reverse. So if you place the mirror on the penny and you go this way, you can make it look like the penny is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it really comes down to just about nothing, right? Nothing there anymore. Right? So this is phase 1. You actually shrink the penny, right, using the mirror. You turn it into something really, really tiny. So, of course, it comes with this little gimmick. Now, phase 2, the climax, is pretty simple. What you do is you take the little penny, and you take a handkerchief that you've used earlier, is the one I used. And the setup is that you have the handkerchief and you can rub off the mirror, to start out. So the handkerchief is already in play. But you take the little tiny penny and you rub it with the handkerchief, and then when you pull the handkerchief away, it's a jumbo penny. It's huge, it's massive, it's like that. So what I did is I turned it into this jumbo penny, and then I gave the big one to my son. Problem solved. Eyes big as saucers. Now he's got a jumbo penny that he can't stick into his nose. But anyway, that was just something I'd share with you. That trick probably sat packed away in a bag for 25 years, and I haven't done anything with it. And I found a use for it, and now I'm out one jumbo penny that I was probably never going to use anyway. But anyway, I did want to talk a little bit about the way tricks came in brick and mortar shops back in the day, or if you ordered from catalog. I used to get the Tannen's catalog, right, for the Tannen's Magic in New York, and I would order things from that. I have a bunch of tricks that I got from Tannen's as a young person, junior high, teenager, and tricks that I just never used. I never used. They sounded so good in print. They just sounded amazing. Like, oh my goodness, I could have fire at my fingertips. I got to have that, right? So I would send away for it using my parents' money. It wasn't even my money. It wasn't making money. I'd get this thing. I'd see, oh, that's what it is. Well, I can't use that, right? And then the thing would get packed away, and that was it. But one criticism that comes about today is that tutorials, because a lot of things are download, or they come with a download code, or they come with a DVD or something, more so downloads than DVDs lately. Everything's kind of gone to electronic files. One criticism is that the videos are so short. Well, you get like a 2-minute video with this thing, right? Or a 5-minute video. They don't really go into detail. And there's a lot of criticism. Part of the criticism has to do with the fact that, well, since you can have a download, why shouldn't it be much longer? But I do have to push back a little bit and say, well, what do you really need, right, with some of these things? And if you get something from me on this channel, it's always going to be very long, right? We go into a lot of detail, maybe in a very redundant manner that drives some people nuts, but that's fine by me. If you get something from me from the marketplace, it's going to be pretty long format too, where I talk in detail as much as I can and try to cover as many bases as possible. But nonetheless, you get some of these short videos. But I just want to remind everybody, this is what you used to get. I mean, it used to be this kind of thing. You'd get a one sheet with very small print and the most concise sort of description. Now this one is pretty well done, actually. It covers pretty much all the bases. It doesn't have any typographical errors. It was printed and cut very cleanly on the paper. But man, it used to be, and some of you know who kind of went through that era, you used to get stuff that was Xeroxed and it was hardly even centered on the paper. Some things might have been cut off. There would be typographical errors, right? There'd be information missing from it. That was kind of normal. And you would get it in a Ziploc bag, just kind of a cheap Ziploc bag, and the props would be okay. That was kind of normal, pretty typical for that time. So the whole point in this is people gripe and complain about what you get now from the online magic stores. I think we've come a long way from those days where you only got a very vague description, only the essential details, no discussion on presentation, right? You really had nothing to go on unless the person behind the counter was practiced enough, and which was rare, that the person behind the counter was practiced enough to really do the trick really well, right? They would do it okay. They'd be able to sell the thing. And most often they're selling kind of the typical stuff, Svengali decks, thumb tips, handkerchiefs, the very simple kinds of things. They used to have a little latex rubber square that you'd push coins through. That was a pretty big one. They'd sell those hot rods, those kinds of things. Whenever you would get a special kind of trick like this, it'd be rare that the person behind the counter was practiced enough on it that they would really show you a good presentation or have a lot of nuanced ideas about how to use it. You were left with just this, and that was it. And then you had to make something of it. And very few people were well equipped, particularly young people were well equipped to make something of it. So we've come a long way, even with very short digital downloads, 2-minute, video files talking about what to do, because at least then you get somewhat of a performance. Another gripe is that you don't get enough information in the trailer, right, or in the advertisement video, that they don't show a full performance. I heard there's one review magician, very well known, that went on quite a rant about how that's absurd. There needs to be, these trailers that should give a full, complete performance of everything. before it's sold. Well, remember that we're selling secrets, and I can understand. Now, I try to be very transparent on the stuff that I do, so that I can show you what it is. But my book, my ebook, Any, which is about any card at any number, I don't do any of the demonstrations in any of the trailer, for that. I try to be transparent about what the book is about. I give you the table of contents. I give you in the trailer, I explain this is about equivocate. This is about deck stacking. This is about some memorization. This is about basic sleights. It's about presentation. So you kind of know what you're getting into. But if I were to show you the performances for some of those things, I'm really giving up the trick, because magicians that are in the know, they would recognize the various techniques that are going into it, and they wouldn't really need the book. They would just kind of sort it out on their own. So I need to compel you, and magicians need to compel people to investigate, hoping that they won't necessarily be disappointed by seeing something that they otherwise really could have imagined themselves, but they didn't. Someone else did, right? So I think we've come a long way, even without, complete presentations on some products, because you just can't do that in some cases. I think that magicians should be somewhat transparent about what they're giving, but again, knowing that they're selling secrets, you can't really show everything all the time. So I get it. I understand it. I really don't have a gripe about the platform the way it is right now and the way magic tricks are sold, because I come from this, right? I come from this. And those of you that came from this, you know how much better it is now than the way it was back then, and the very little that you had to work with. Even before that, it was library books. Even before you would buy things from a catalog or get things in a brick and mortar store without a good demonstration, the best you could do was just get magic books that described sleights that just were extremely difficult to understand, and you never were able to see anybody do it. And you just kind of had to sort out what you thought it looked like, usually in a mirror, where your focus is on the mirror and not on what you're doing. So that's a whole other level of frustration right there. We've come a long way. I think we've come a very long way, and I don't have a whole lot of gripes about the online marketplace, just the way it is, and some of the things that are presented the way they are. It's a magical effect. There's going to be a method. The method is always disappointing unless you have appreciation for methods. If you have an appreciation for methods, I don't think any method could really ever be really disappointing, given a low bar of expectation. You should always have a low bar of expectation, knowing that there's going to have to be some flim-flammery, some shenanigans involved in the presentation to make it work. That's always true in a magical effect. And if you have that assumption coming into it, I don't think anything should ever really disappoint. Even once it turns out to be something different or maybe beneath your expectations in terms of method. I think understanding that everything requires razzle-dazzle, as I put it, nothing should be disappointing to us. So anyway, there it is. Trip down memory lane with an old effect. I don't know if this is still sold or not. Barry Mitchell, Ross Steele, Fourth Dimension Cent Climax. The climax being the jumbo coin at the end. Anyway, good luck with that. Happy magicking.